Recent news headlines about the succession/footage of the administrative center in Tehran. The supreme leader is gone. While the world watches the funeral, the real story is happening in the shadows of the Iranian state. This isn't just a succession crisis, it's a structural survival test. For years, Tehran has quietly discussed moving its administrative capital. Overcrowding, seismic risk, water stress, those were the official reasons. But now, the logic has shifted. It is about continuity planning, the ability to keep steering, even when the streets become ungovernable. The real question is not where the capital goes. It is, what does the system fear will happen if it stays? After 1979, Iran built a system designed to last, but the architecture created a problem. Everything runs through Tehran. Concentration is efficient until it becomes a vulnerability. One city, one center of gravity, 80% of administrative decisions made within a few square kilometers. Concentration like that is efficient until it isn't. The economy fractured under sanctions. The rial lost 90% of its value. Economic pain alone doesn't break systems. Anger doesn't either. What breaks systems is when anger finds a structure. Then something changed. Protests started being about the system itself. Once the street understands that a single spark can produce a national fire, the state's calculation shifts entirely. Specific triggers vary. The pattern doesn't. That's where the relocation logic returns. Continuity planning isn't for today's demonstration. It's for the day today's tools stop being enough. Uprisings fail because the state is more organized than the street. Communication is the second variable. Shutdowns work in one direction. They slow cascades, but they create information vacuums filled with rumor. The final variable is state capacity. Regimes fall when the people responsible for order start disagreeing. The death of the leader is the ultimate test for this web. If the center becomes ungovernable during a power struggle, the state loses its ability to steer. The capital relocation, away from dense protest geography connected by roads the government controls, is not a reform, it is a continuity protocol. States that build these protocols are not acting out of strength, they are preparing for something they believe is possible. Iran's problem is not urban planning, it is a system that concentrated everything in one place, and now realizes that concentration is its greatest weakness. The relocation debate is the government asking itself, can we survive the ground we stand on? The answer tells you everything, not about traffic, but about what the system thinks is coming next.
Trump has confirmed Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, is dead following that major attack by the U.S. in Israel.
This is not a story about a funeral. It is a story about a system that no longer trusts the ground it stands on. On February 28, 2026, the era of Ali Khamenei did not end with a prayer. It ended in a firestorm. Operation Epic Fury decapitated the Islamic Republic in a single morning. For many, the headlines mirrored 1979 and the iconic Shah raft. The Shah has gone. But while the world watches the smoke rise over Tehran, a deeper, more desperate story is unfolding in the shadows. This is not just a succession crisis, it is the activation of the ultimate survival protocol. For years, the Iranian government has quietly discussed moving its administrative capital, citing pollution, water stress, and seismic risks. But as the biological clock of the regime stops, the logic has shifted. It is no longer about urban planning. It is about continuity planning. The real question is not where the capital goes. The real question is, what does the system fear will happen if it stays? To answer that, you have to understand three variables: participation, communication, state capacity. After 1979, Iran built a system designed to last. They created a revolutionary architecture of parallel power, the IRGC, the clerical establishment, and the formal bureaucracy. But they repeated a fatal historical flaw: absolute centralization. Everything runs through Tehran. One city, one center of gravity. 80% of administrative decisions are made within a few square kilometers. 30% of the entire national GDP is concentrated in a single urban basin. Concentration is efficient for control until it becomes a single point of failure. By early 2026, the economy was already a ghost. The rial had lost 99.99% of its value since the revolution, trading at over 1.4 million per dollar. But economic pain alone doesn't break systems. What breaks systems is when a power vacuum at the top meets a structure of anger on the street. In a centralized state, to lose control of the capital for even 48 hours is to lose the state. Tehran is no longer a fortress. It is a cage, but then the geography itself turned. Tehran is sinking, literally. Parts of the city are dropping by 31 centimeters a year. The groundwater is gone. The infrastructure is fracturing. This ecological collapse met a political turning point. Protests stopped being about single issues. They became about the system itself. Specific triggers vary. The pattern doesn't. Once that pattern becomes visible, once the street understands that a single spark can produce a national fire, the state's calculation shifts. This is why the relocation logic, the move to the Makran region in the south, has become an emergency. Continuity planning isn't for a protest. It is for the day the supreme leader is gone and the tools of the present stop being enough. Relocation isn't about air quality. It is about building a machinery of power that is harder to hit and disconnected from 10 million angry residents. To understand if the state can hold during this war, look at the variables. First, participation. Uprisings fail because the state is more organized than the street. But as the succession looms, the state's organization is tested by internal factions. Donald Trump has called on Iranians to take over your government, but participation is a double-edged sword. As civilian infrastructure burns from Iranian retaliation in Kuwait and Dubai, the regional sentiment shifts from sympathy to fear. Second, communication. Internet shutdowns work in one direction. They slow cascades, but they create information vacuums. In a vacuum, rumors of a coup move faster than the police. The reported death of interim leader Alireza Arafi, the hardline cleric, has created a panic the state cannot suppress. Third, state capacity. Regimes fall when the people responsible for order start disagreeing. The death of Khamenei is the ultimate stress test for this web. If the IRGC and the clerical establishment fracture during this transition, Tehran becomes the ultimate liability. Distributed capacity is insurance. Today, Iran is managing a regional fire. In a desperate attempt to show strength after the February 28 strikes, the Iranian military launched hundreds of drones at its Arab neighbors. Bahrain, Qatar, and the UAE confirmed strikes on their energy facilities. This is the math of a cornered state. If we fall, we drag your prosperity into the abyss. Donald Trump has stated that combat operations will continue as long as necessary, projecting a timeline of 5 weeks. The Iranian Navy is facing annihilation, and the state is retreating to underground facilities like Eagle 44. They are preparing for a war of attrition, acting not out of strength, but out of the realization that Tehran has become a strategic death trap, a cage that has consumed every ruler from the Qajars to the Ayatollahs. Iran's problem was never just about urban planning or one man. It was about a system that concentrated everything in one place, and then realized that concentration is its greatest weakness. The relocation to the south is the government's final hypothesis. Can we survive by changing the map? They aren't just moving offices. They are retreating from a capital that has turned into a mirror of their own failures. This isn't about traffic. It's about whether a 47-year-old machine can still function when it no longer trusts the ground it stands on. The gates are closing. Was the revolution always a dead end? Or is this the final skin shedding of a dying Leviathan? The answer is yet to be written.